Armenia is super familiar to me. My mother brought figs home from the grocery store when I was a kid. My mother used to cut me up pomegranates, and there's people on the street making pomegranate juice, the lamajins, the sojuk, the food. It's all very familiar. I've also loved seeing all the religious sites because, my great-grandmother during her escape from Harpert, she had an Orthodox Bible that she would read cover to cover. And she, used words like Hreshtag. And to see all of those words come to life here in this land, kids start to make sense and all line up. That's probably been it's just been a pretty amazing trip. It's been like coming here and understanding why they are the way that they are. Now I have answers for all these things that were just questions before. So there was a huge rainstorm when we were coming back from Lori. We were trying to beat the storm back, but I really wanted to see the monastery at Sanahim. We were staying ahead of the rain and what turned out to be flooding, and we made it up to the top of the mountain. And when we were exploring the monastery there was a room with one of the chambers had an icon of the Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus. And I have two photos of my great-grandmother after surviving the genocide and after getting out of the relocation camp with my baby grandmother. And it was the same exact pose in the icon as it was her holding the baby. So that felt like a sign. When I planted the tree at the memorial, this thought came into my mind. When someone's stranded on an island, you write a message of help and you put it into a bottle and you throw it into the ocean, and then someday maybe somebody gets that letter and comes back. It was like my great-grandmother surviving, and that was the message that then I received, and then 109 years later I'm back. So the thought that plaque will always be there, the tree will always be there, she'll always be there, and my mother feels the same way. She feels like I showed up here to bring them back home. Also, my grandmother's name is Sir Arpi. Arpi is the sun, or love's sun. And so the eternity symbol, that sun, seeing that everywhere felt like my grandmother was all over this trip. Going to Megarian carpets and seeing the dragons on the carpets and realizing that my mother had been here years before, brought me home a dragon carpet and I didn't know it was from them. So seeing that there was amazing. It just felt like the trip was already preordained. And even when I gave a speech this past December at the co-op event in New York City, one of the things that I talked about was the fact that because the diaspora exists, because people like my great-grandmother survived, Armenians are now all over the world. So no matter whatever was done or ever is done to Armenians, they'll always be there. They'll always have a place. And so the idea of eternity, that symbol of eternity, I understand what that means. And that's in honor of my great-grandmother, my grandmother, their survival long enough to have my mother, who then had me. So I got the eternity on my arm. I love hearing the stories, especially today, seeing the little boy who wouldn't talk, who couldn't talk. And then within 2 years, he's laughing, we're having fun, we're talking, and just seeing the light come on in this little boy, and then understanding that there's so many other children that are also being helped. And then there are so many children on a wait list because the parents are now realizing that they don't just have to hide a child with a disability or some sort of traumatic effect that is hindering their ability to learn, to see a village and a community realize that children can be helped. I'm watching this thing take effect and actually make a change. So there are children in those villages who are great storytellers, great artists. I'm an artist, and what I got was the sense that there are these creative, wonderful minds. They're like flowers that just need water. So it seemed to me like the Smart Center was there to water these children who haven't been watered yet. And so I'm watching the petals of these flowers unfold. I just love the fact that Co-op had removed any sort of excuse whatsoever and given the kids the tools that they need to excel, to have access, to get out and see the world and understand that there is a world out there. And then in the hopes that those kids will then come back and then help build the infrastructure here in their villages. The president of Armenia comes from a village like that. I know that he's a big fan of what Co-op does. So for me to see that up close and actually talk to these bright, funny, fun-loving, kids who are being taught not just to be quiet, and cover their feelings, but to let them out in these exciting ways. It meant a lot to me. You can go to a charity event, and until you actually see it firsthand, you just don't quite understand exactly where that money is going and where that effort is going. And I mean, it's changing the country from the inside out. It's beautiful.